What did your boss do that made you quit on the spot? When I was working at a bowling alley, a guy said that he wished my melons could talk so he could speak to my cleavage. Told the manager, and she said, "That's just how he is." Exit stage left. The required uniform was a polo shirt, so you couldn't see anything. Also, it wasn't the first incident. Worked at a gym for 6 months as a desk staff manager. Had put in my 2 weeks, and everyone started acting like creeps. 3 days before my last, the assistant manager comes in high and traps me at the desk area, telling me I have to crawl under his legs to get out. I refused, and he threatened to hit me if I tried to shove him out of the way. Managed to get by with some help from a coworker, and reported it to general manager, but they refused to do anything about it. So I grabbed my stuff and walked out. Best decision I ever made. That actually sounds like lawsuit material, though. Yeah. The manager didn't allow the employee to leave, threatened physical violence if employee attempted to get around him or her. Not good at all. They wanted me to assist in the commission of a fraud. The short version is that a timeshare organization called Silverleaf Resorts wanted me to lie to people to help gather information so they could run unauthorized credit checks. I won't get into everything I saw that half day. I was actually going into the floor after training. I will say that I left during lunch and spent the next 2 days on my phone with various labor organizations and law enforcement agencies. I was being harassed. The HR rep blamed me instead of my boss. Had a big "I'm a strong woman" speech, and told everyone to burn in hell and walked out. Most liberating feeling ever. Until I got into my car, parked right outside the front office windows, and the battery was dead. All coworkers and HR reps were standing there watching me sit awkwardly in my car while waiting for assistance. It was my summer job. My boss was super cool. I gave him my 2 weeks, and he said he didn't care when, but I should just scream, "I quit," and walk out to freak everyone out. The day before I said I was going to leave, I was having one of those days being a clumsy mother effer. Tripped over something and yelled, "That's it! I've quit!" Boss gets right in my face. "No one quits my business! Get the back to work!" We kept going until the rest of the crew started freaking out. He and I were laughing hysterically. And then I got my last check, and I went home. On a personal note, though, I think it would have been better if the rest of the crew would have just gone like, "F it, I'm with you!" Yeah, do you come back from that? I don't know. Anyways, it was a great boss, right? I once apprehended a guy trying to steal liquor from the bottle shop I was working at. Due to the fact that it was such a problem, the boss decided to make an example of him, so I had to hold him until the police arrived. I had had enough of this whole job at this point. This would happen every night. I had bricks thrown at me. People would steal stuff literally every night. Anyways, before the police arrived, the guy I had on the ground calmly told me that he's gonna come back with a gun and shoot me. After the cops took him away, I just looked at the boss and said, "Well, I'm out. Thanks, and bye." Sure have. I used to work for a call center, which I hated the fact that I had to talk on the phone for Verizon, taking calls in which I'd help customers fix phones and any other problems, bills, ordering new phones, etc. And one day, I got a man saying that he was going to come to the actual building, because he happened to actually live in the same town, and slay me, all over the fact that I wouldn't take off the 6 months of late charges he had. I got up, I put my headset down, and I walked out the door. I didn't even end the call or turn the computer off. He was still yelling at me when I sat my headset down. Best decision of my life. Honestly, though, your best decision probably would have been to, involve the police, maybe? Your calls are recorded, and this clown kinda needs to be put to justice, you know what I mean? Anyways, worked as a waiter. End of a 17-hour shift. A drunk chef poured his drink on my head in front of patrons. Looked at my manager, who said, "Don't look at me like that. If you don't like it, leave." I did. I never looked back. I worked doing deliveries for a business that rented equipment. We rented it out to places in about a 5 to 6 hour radius from our location. I drove at 400 and usually more like 500 miles a day. Sometimes I ended up working 13-hour days and went even further. I kept telling them that my tires needed to be replaced for a week. Well, the tires on the company truck I used never got replaced. I was driving in the rain and skidded down a hill, through a stop sign into a busy intersection and into a field. I drove back to the shop and I quit. I worked at a call center when I was 18. One day the manager told us that the person that sold the fewest items would lose his chair and have to stand for the rest of the week. As a fun, bonding, and learning experience. I just laughed, walked up to her, told her I was quitting and that I would contact the union about it. This was not the first time that this happened. She tried to talk me out of it the entire time and was talking about how this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Damn right it is, I told her. Anyways, I left and I got a better job literally a week later, and that awful company ceased to exist about 4 months later. My first job was working as a dishwasher at a seafood place. I wasn't hired as a dishwasher, I was supposed to be a busser. They just shoved me on the washer and they left me there. One of the other employees there was an elderly man who worked alongside his wife and his grandson. Every day he would find an excuse to walk up close to me and put his hand on my bottom. He was a 70-year-old man and I was a 16-year-old boy. I should have reported him, but I doubted anyone would have believed me since he'd been there for years and I'd only been working there a month. I just called the manager. I told her I had to quit for school reasons and never look back. Dang, dude, man, that really sucks. Male harassment is not talked about enough, don't you think? Jeez. I was 16 working part-time on an island in Greece, and a guy walked in with a knife and demanded to give him money from the register. I obviously did it, and I immediately called my boss. He told me that I was weak and I should have stood up for myself, so I just left without even replying. I quit my job at KFC on the spot after another employee who was having a food fight with my friend, another employee, threw a pot pie that missed and hit me. Well, it was fucking hot. It gave me burns on my arm that scarred me. I tried telling the manager at the time what happened, but he said that they were grease burns, and he refused to view the tapes. I quit on the spot, and now I work at Papa John's, far away from pot pies. On second thought, I should have probably sued. After working 7 days a week for several months, I scheduled some time off. The day before, the owner's brother comes in saying, well, guess who thought they were off this weekend and actually has to work? I looked at him and I said, not me. To which he answered, yeah, you. I picked up the phone in front of him and told my wife to come pick me up. I just quit. He stood with his mouth open and I picked up the phone again and told the answerer that I needed a job. I told him that I could start Monday. Then I walked out. Marketing company interviewed me and told me that I made it to stage 2 of the application process. They told me to come back the next day wearing a suit. I shadowed a couple of their employees, which meant that we walked around in 107-degree heat for 8 hours trying to sell ticket packages for a local baseball team. Worst day of my life. On the drive back to the headquarters, one of their employees asked me if I was interested. He put me in a really awkward spot, but I just turned to him and said, no, I'm not going to work for this company. The rest of the ride was really silent and awkward. I gotta add, I hate those job postings that say it's a marketing position that ends up being sales jobs. 90% of the internships I was working at for one summer were labeled as marketing, but they were either call centers or door-to-door sales. Crappy job at an accessories retail chain. The manager wanted me to follow around black customers to make sure they didn't steal anything. You know, 'cause it's the South, and apparently we're all a bunch of racists. Nope. F that. I told her I wouldn't do that, and she tried to backpedal and saying that, no, I'm not being racist, but you know how it is. You know. No, I don't know how it is. But you know what? I do know how racists are, though. I quit on the spot. Didn't bother picking up my check for less than 2 hours of work. I had a job for a day as a meter maid. On my first training day, we had to stop outside this cancer hospital and give out parking tickets to the cancer patients, one of which came over to us and asked me, don't you have any shame? My accomplice just shrugged. My guts twisted, and right then I knew I could never do that job. So I told them when we got back. They never paid me either. They fired another woman for taking too much time off to care for her dying grandmother who raised her. For context, she was a lower-level admin. I was a database administrator. I'd been taking time off just like her because my mother-in-law was dying. They fired her. Her skills were easy to replace. I quit that day. My skills were not easily replaced. Worked for a company that went into people's homes to install market research equipment. I encountered a woman and her toddler and infant who were obvious victims of domestic violence. And she told me her assailant was on the run with a gun. I wanted to help her file a report to help, but my leadership wanted to run my request by legal first because of the privacy involved. F that. I put her in touch with a domestic violence shelter, and I helped her contact a county victim advocate. Eventually, the law said I was good to go. 3 days later, I told them I had already helped her and that they would come and pick up the company car. I wasn't going to work for a company that didn't prioritize safety. Do you have a story to share? Let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. And I would love to narrate your experiences. Thank you very much.